Hi, welcome to Breaking Free Fridays, or welcome back if you've been following the series. I'm Kara, and it is so great to have you here. So today I felt inspired to talk about how to follow through on your choices. This is such an important area when it comes to personal development and our empowerment journeys and just growth in general. But the thing that I found, and I'll be curious, I'd love to hear in the comments if you've noticed this too. It seems like in the personal development world, the idea of, oh, just choose, just make the choice, becomes very trite. And it almost invalidates an aspect of just reality in terms of people's nervous systems. Choice requires a certain amount of space in our systems to really be able to follow through on. And, when we talk about choice just at, that cursory level, and it's just like, oh, just make a choice. Choose to set that boundary. Choose to be assertive and, stand up for ourselves in this particular dynamic or this situation. Or just choose to, get up earlier tomorrow and do that workout. It all sounds great in theory. And obviously, having an idea of what we want and a desire for where we're going is key. Having a willingness and an openness to the possibility of shift and breakthrough, absolutely, critical in our empowerment journeys. And also, even having that conviction within, like, this is what I really want. And I am not going to settle for anything less. Those are things that are deeper within our systems that can really open doors in ways that we can't even imagine. And they just unravel in beautiful ways. But getting back to this matter of choice, yes, I mean, choice is absolutely important, and it is a critical piece. However, if our nervous systems are too dysregulated, if they don't have enough space for choice to actually carry through, then that premise that keeps getting reiterated in the personal development space then becomes an area that kind of reinforces people beating themselves up. And that's not what this is about. This is about progress and not perfection. This is about celebrating our wins and finding our footing and momentum and movement forward, instead of, realizing, we're just and reinforcing the things that weren't working. So I want to take a moment to really dive into this with you a little bit more. When you think about your nervous system, and just, the automatic functioning in our bodies, there's two aspects to our nervous system. There's the sympathetic and there's the parasympathetic. The sympathetic nervous system is the part that really operates the survival mode for us. And the reality is that most people are living in a version of fight or flight, freeze or fawn, the majority of the time. Most people are dealing with a very heightened or dysregulated nervous system that is operating in that survival mode. So, think about things being amped up. For example, imagine watching a movie that is a thriller. There's jump scares, or something super intense happens, and think about how your body responds to that, like what you feel inside. that heart racing, or, that like jitteriness that happens, an on edge kind of feeling, anxiety, things like that are connected to that amped up system. It leaves us with little space to really operate in a place where we're responding. It takes us more into reaction, like boom, we're just reactive. The parasympathetic side of the nervous system, that's where the rest and digest happens. That's more of the place of calm, of ease and flow, of centeredness. That's where we reside in a place where we can be more responsive, where like the greatest amount of alignment can come in terms of, conscious will and what our bodies are able to manage and sustain and follow through with, and not hijack us, into reactivity. So, and then of course, there's spiritual alignment and all of those pieces that come into play as well. And one of the things that I just want to share with you that is such a hopeful invitation is the biggest and most fundamental choice that we have is to choose to learn how to and to make part of our lifestyle regulating our nervous system. And a lot of that comes down to learning how to manage our emotions, how to feel our emotions, move them through, and really maintain that centeredness. Obviously it's not something that can happen 100% of the time, but the more that we are able to operate in that place, things just become easier all the way around. And so that choice to really invest in yourself and the self-care and the practice that can help you really find that place of regulation, that place where you feel at ease, where you feel a safety within, where you feel calmness, where you feel centeredness. And imagine, because this is absolutely possible, imagine feeling that in such a way that whatever's going on around you, it doesn't spin you out into a place of chaos or into a place of overwhelm or into a place of, spiraled negative thinking, because you're in a place where you're able to be responsive and centered and more from a place of a conscious awareness rather than a biologically reactive kind of state. It is so powerful and so possible. So I just want to leave that possibility for you, because it is absolutely there. And I'll go into a few tools that can help you, that you can start super simple, that you can incorporate and make your own, that can help you with that nervous system regulation. But a couple of other things just to keep in mind to kind of help bring this home, around this matter of choice and following through. So if our nervous system is really dysregulated and somebody's saying, well, you just make the choice, you choose and that happens. It's, obviously intention is unbelievably powerful, and we definitely want to be strong in our intentions. That opens up doorways and possibilities. So super important. And if our nervous system is regulated, it's like saying, oh, the car, go, even though there's no gas. That doesn't really work very well. That doesn't really work very well as an example. So just for an analogy, I thought that might be helpful. And then the other thing to keep in mind, once we have this place where there's spaciousness in our nervous systems for choice to really blossom, for it to have a place to grow from instead of being shut down. Because this isn't just about willpower. This isn't just about discipline. We can have massive amounts of willpower and massive amounts of discipline, and if our nervous systems are really dysregulated, those are just not sustainable. I mean, it really lends to a road of burnout. So it's just keeping that in mind. But once we have that spaciousness, there are a few pillars or basically like 3-pronged approach that can really lend to powerful follow through on choice. And these are things that we can keep practicing over and over again. And one has to do with our physical state. So imagine, and this goes beyond the nervous system piece, but just our body language, if you will. So think of somebody that is feeling really down, really depressed. Their body language is very drawn in, like hunched over, with drawn face. Oftentimes, you can see it in the way that they hold themselves. Just as you can see in somebody's body language and physical state if they're really passionate about something, if they're happy, if they're excited, if they're thriving, that shows up in their physical stance, in their physical presence. And we can tap into that. There have been things, I don't know if you've heard of this before, but there's this thing called laughing yoga. And the idea is, when you just start making yourself laugh, you bring yourself into a place of happiness and joy and laughter. You can try it, like just literally start chuckling about nothing or even just smiling. It shifts the energy. It shifts the physical state. And that can change a lot in terms of, your direction and really supporting your choice. And also keep in mind, our bodies are meant to move. This goes back to just the idea of some of the things that in general just work great. It's like, for our health and well-being, activity and movement, it really primes us into a positive physical state. Our strength and just, sense of vitality that comes from being active, that goes a long way. So, second part of that 3-pronged piece that can really help support and flourish in the direction of your choices, has to do with really focusing your energy. And it's about, where your focus is, that's where energy flows. So imagine, where do you spend most of your time? Do you spend your time thinking about the past, ruminating about things that have happened? Do you focus more on the present? Or do you focus on the future? And maybe even focusing on the future in a way that's around like worries or fears or the what ifs. The more that we can focus our energy and keep our direction angled towards what we want, the more that we create that. It's like the concept of, a self-fulfilling prophecy. And it's one of those things that, you want to keep that focus on the present as much as possible with some eye to your vision for the future, not the worries, not the what ifs, but your desires, what you're creating, because that direction really helps beget the realization of those things that you're envisioning, of what you're wanting. So, keeping yourself in that place is really powerful. And then the third part is about supportive language and also beliefs. So, One of the things that you can really hone in on around your language is, and this comes back to self-talk even, and also just how you're framing things. So, for example, if you're talking about, oh, I feel stressed all the time, or there's not enough time, I'm super overwhelmed, oh my gosh, life is so hard. And that's like a default rhetoric that you go to, narrative that you go to, if you will. That's being reinforced. And these things are so indoctrinated and conditioned in the narrative that gets just perpetuated in casual conversation, in our family circles, in our communities, in our society. And so, it can be a fun game to invite yourself to really have awareness about your language and what you're saying, and how you can reframe it into something that supports the choice that you're making for what you want, for where you want to go in terms of your life, your breakthroughs, all of that. So, going back to that thing about, the example that I gave around talking about how life is hard. It's like, oh, I navigate challenge with ease, for example, could be a really useful reframe. Or, in terms of the time, I have more than enough time and energy. And it may not feel true at first, but, reinforcing that will help shift things. It opens the doorway to a different trajectory. And this is true for beliefs too. It's super powerful to continually examine your beliefs and, what those are around different facets of your life. You can journal on these, you can self-reflect on these, you can pray about these, you can meditate about these. But the more aware we get about what beliefs we have, the more we can break free of those that are limiting. And in concert with really having solid, regulation of our nervous system, it's just really powerful, because part of those limiting beliefs, those are entangled in dysregulated nervous systems. There's a lot more behind that, and I mean, we'll go into that into other videos too. But the more that you can create and focus on empowering beliefs, things around like I am, I can, I am empowered, I am powerful, I am a creator, my choice matters, I matter, things like that, where, the belief is everything. I think I've shared this quote before, but I absolutely love it. Henry Ford said it. It's something along the lines of, if you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. And it goes back to that belief, like how you frame that, it dictates a lot, and that can really influence that direction and that support for choices that you make. So just to recap, in terms of that three-pronged approach that can support the choices that you make when you have that spaciousness in your nervous system, where choice can really land. And we've got the physical state, that body language, that presence, physical presence. We have, focusing in the direction that we want. So where we focus, our energy is flowing. And then the third one is that piece of, supportive language, supportive belief systems. I would love to hear, what your experience has been around this, and how this is landing with you. So please share in the comments. If you're loving these videos, share them with loved ones and friends. Subscribe, send a like. And just to wrap up, I wanted to share a couple of very simple but very powerful tools that you can use to help with creating that spaciousness in your nervous system, with regulating your nervous system, so that choice really feels like choice. And The first one is called, I like to call it a mini tap. This is a favorite one of my daughter. And basically it combines a physical sensation with really creating a mental focus that connects to counting. And you can pick, however high a number you want to count down from. But for purposes of this, I'll just do 10. And I'm going to use one hand, and we're going to do a mini tap from 10 down to 1 with each finger. So you'd go, basically it would be 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And the more you can slow it down, the more it helps you slow down and come back into center in your body. So play with that in terms of the tempo too. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And even softer in your voice, you can play with that too. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. When you do that, notice it also helps slow your breathing down. And you'll feel a shift in your body. You can do this as many times as you need to feel the shift that you're looking for. Go one way and then the other way. If you need to increase the number. So super powerful mini tap. You can do that to help you fall asleep, even just to really calm the mind down. And then the other one has to do with physical senses. So the physical senses are an incredibly powerful way to bring us back into our body and into the present. That's part of what helps really regulate us. So one of the things to keep in mind, if you are a visual learner or an auditory learner, or a kinesthetic learner, by touch or like hands-on, whatever of those senses really is most powerful for your way of learning, that particular sense can be one of the faster or more powerful ways to help you in your nervous system regulation with this particular tool. So, for example, one of the things that you want to do is really come into the present with what you see around you. So take a moment and really identify and name and use specifics of everything that you see just in your immediate area. Go into colors, go into texture, go into, actual objects, like what you're seeing. As specific as you can, even shading, like, the light, the shadows, and really go into detail. So the more you give your focus to that, the more that helps you come into present. Same thing with listening. And the thing that can be really powerful, if you're going on the auditory side, is really exploring, what do you hear closest to you? That may be the sound of your breath, maybe the sound of, I just sniffed, that maybe it's that. It could be the sound of your dog, breathing, or your dog licking their paw, for example, or, music in the distance. And stretch yourself. What is the thing that you hear that's the furthest away? Maybe you hear a plane overhead, or maybe you can tune in and hear a car driving down the street, or a honk, further in the distance. And then, getting into touch, for example. That can be even as close as your own hand, touching two fingers together and really paying attention to every little ridge in your fingertips, feeling the warmth of your skin, the lines on your palm, touching the fabric and really, honing in on the texture in terms of how it feels, the temperature, whether it's smooth, whether it's soft, and going into as descriptive of a place as you can. And of course, you can do this as well with scents. You can do this with taste. It can be super powerful just as a regular practice with the first, for example, the first bite of every meal, just closing your eyes and really savoring your food, taking your time chewing, like slowing it down, and you'll be surprised at what you notice. It's pretty amazing what you actually tell and the experience of eating and the meaning that it takes on, like the blessing that it is, the heightenedness of how delicious food can be, and even like the textures, if you do it from a place of great intention and really thoughtful and really slowing down, and you can do all of the senses. So play around with this, see what works for you the best. Make these your own. And the more that you start using regular tools on a daily basis, even a couple of times a day, that can help with nervous system regulation, over time, you will see incredibly powerful shifts. It's like the old Chinese proverb, a journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step. So celebrate your wins, celebrate the one step, because that one step begets the next and the next and the next. And I'm just so celebrating you on your journey. And I honor you in your inner work. So here is to a wonderful next week. And also here's to your next level of empowerment and breaking free. Again, subscribe and send a like, and share these videos if you're enjoying them. I hope you get a lot out of these latest tools, and would love to hear your thoughts and what you'd like to hear more of. So let me know in the comments. Okay, bye for now.